I wanted to get a nice seat with good bolsters in it, and one also that I could use for the harness. So it needs the little holes to go there across the top and offer good, neck support there. So I just bit the bullet and went ahead and ordered one online. And unfortunately, the only one I could find that I liked, had to buy the pair of them. So I got another one over here, but I'll donate that to my son's cart. So we'll do that and let him have that one, because I really only got used for this one. But anyway, it's made out of PVC kind of material or whatever, pleather, and in the back here, it's the same material, and it's going to be in a relatively close proximity to the exhaust header. So we're going to have to build a firewall. I made a slight design change to the heat shield, put an extra bend in it at the top. That lets me mount my seat about 4 inches further back, giving me a little more leg room up here. So that's all situated now. I've got my seat bolted in. It's looking good. This is our air bottle. Then this right here is the controller for the compressor. That'll kick on at 150 psi and kick off at 180. Then we have our regulator, which takes it down to, I'm guessing, 90 psi. We're going to see what works best with the air shifter. And off of that regulator, we got a line coming off going up to the front that'll go to a gauge, so I know how much air I got. And then the main output of the regulator splits off into two and goes to each shift solenoid. This one's upshift, that one's down there is a downshift. And then from there it comes out and goes to the shift cylinder. And it's a double acting cylinder, so depending on which side you put your air to depends on whether the ram comes in or out. So having everything so close and the lines so short, that means I'll need less pressure. So that way, the lower pressure we keep everything, the easier the little air compressor and all will be able to keep up with this. So we got all that done. We got it mounted on a steel plate here, and it's mounted to the inside. And before we did that, went ahead and made sure I got everything put back here. Painted up my sliders, so got a nice little bit of contrast there going on, so it's just not all completely murdered out. And then we got our brake caliper all mounted, and they that plastic line they sent me with this caliper kit wasn't long enough, so I went ahead and converted it over to steel line. That'll give me a better pedal feel anyway. So, and we went ahead and put the roll cage and the fuel tank, oil cooler, I had the oil cooler lines in, but they're all hooked up now. And right here, let's see if I can get you to where we can see it. Back here, I've got a temperature sensor that'll kick this fan on when the oil temperature gets up to a certain point. Make sure the motor doesn't overheat. And right now, pretty much, we're just at the point of wiring all the electricals up. I still got some stuff to do up front there, but I'm just going to try and sort everything in the back here and get it done and then work my way forward. I've got some more stuff coming. It'll be here tomorrow. I'm not going to use very much of the old wiring harness because it had a whole bunch of crazy stuff in it with like kickstand safety and all that kind of stuff, with a bunch of electronics built into the harness and all. We're not just not going to need any of that. So I have the wiring schematic for the igniter, and it's basically just a one-wire alternator there, so that's easy enough. And we'll have a neutral safety on it, so she won't start unless she's in neutral and all that kind of good stuff. And that's where we'll be. And then, of course, I went ahead and put some foam padding here on the thing here to see what it was going to look like. And right there, that's my GPS sensor for the data logger. And you'll see some really cool videos when we run this thing around the track, because this data logger, you can take its information and overlay it on a track video, which I think is going to be really super cool. So anyway, we got all that done. Got my carbon fiber racing clutch in, so that's all said and done. And let's see what else. Oh yeah, I got my little wannabe K&N crankcase breather there. One thing that I added to this fuel tank is I put a sending unit in it, and it'll talk to the instrument cluster up there and has a gas gauge in it, so I can monitor my fuel when I'm going around the track. Isn't it going to be cool? So I think it's going to be pretty cool when it comes together here. I can't wait personally. I'm getting impatient now. It's starting to look like a cart, and you know, I ain't even gotten to the make it pretty stuff yet. We've gotten a lot done on the cart here. We've done some wiring, got our controller box set up. I was hoping to be able to use that cool little racing switch panel that I got off of Amazon, but I just couldn't make it work. I couldn't get it mounted good on the cart to where it didn't look like shit, and you know, it just would have been in the way. You'd have been bumping your leg against it and all that. So here's what I did with that. So right underneath the steering wheel there, I've got a little 4x4 gray PVC box. And on the top left is the air pressure for the air shifter. To the right of that is the air-fuel ratio, so I can watch that. Now, of course, once I get it tuned and all, probably won't be really necessary, but at least it's not flopping around on the cart while I'm trying to run it. And then the what looks like the fire control switch there is the master. Then the next switch over toggle is ignition, and the third toggle enables the air compressor system. And then, of course, the engine start button is there to the far right. And all of that comes down on an umbilical and runs along the center spine underneath all the papers and shit, and comes back here on the back of the cart underneath the seat where all the electrics are going to be. And right there, the igniter for the bike is mounted. And boy, that was something. You know, of course, they're concerned about safety, but you know, it's not just a matter of hooking up 12 volts and ground and put the switch on it and boom, you're done. So this is the wiring diagram for that bike. And as you can see, out of all those wires that go to the igniter, damn near half of them are for various safeties. Like there's a kickstand switch, and then there's two separate switches for the ignition. There's the actual ignition on and then engine stop. Well, one puts power to the module, the other one puts power to the coils. It's pretty wild how it's wired up, but it works, you know. And it's not difficult to bypass, but you just have to work at it. And another tricky bit is on the side stand relay. Those of you who are, focus. focus, the turn signal side stand relay there, you'll notice a couple of diodes back to back. And what has to happen is one of those many wires that goes to the igniter module actually has to be grounded for the module to work. So, you know, it's been a learning experience. And then I have a separate diagram for the basic connections that need to happen to the ignition module itself, or the igniter, to work. So that's been helpful. So it's always good to, number one, of course, get a complete donor bike so you have everything, and then two, have a complete service manual for it with the wiring diagram so you can figure this stuff out, because it's not as easy as you think going in, trust me. So let's see what else we got here. So we've been wiring up a bunch of stuff. We got our fuse block mounted over there. Got our wiring run for the ignition pickup, the neutral safety switch, oil pressure switch, alternator. Got the wires run up to where the coils are going to go. And right now here I'm working on the wiring up the sensor and the fan for the oil cooler. Over here we've got our battery hooked up. We got our ground going to the chassis over here, and then we got our starter relay down here. I didn't use the one that came with the bike because you couldn't mount it anywhere, so I just got me a standard, you know, riding mower starter relay. If it'll crank over an 32 horse or an 18 horse Briggs & Stratton, it'll crank this. So, and then, you know, there's going to be a lot of vibration and a lot of things going on, so we put it in some cool looking red loom, and that's what, God, I love Harbor Freight. If you try to look for these on the internet, you'll hardly never find them, but Harbor Freight sells them, and they are these rubber insulated clamps. They're awesome. And they make your job just look that much more professional, I think. Then, oh yeah, I forgot, there's one more wire I had to run over here, and that comes to the throttle position sensor that is on the side of the carburetors. Right, let's see, right there. That's the throttle position sensor. So, we haven't even got to that point yet. We still got to rebuild all those carburetors and put the new jets in them, but that's coming. But we gotta do the boring stuff first and get this thing wired up and get it to where it's looking good, and then we'll be able to do some of the fun stuff. And I stopped by my friends at Midas yesterday. I thought originally maybe I'd just throw the cart on the back of the truck and take it over there, but I mean, if the guy who does their pipe bending's any good, he can go by the information I gave him and build me a pipe to come off of here. All it needs is about a 35 to 40 degree bend, and it's just going to come straight up out the back here. So that ought to be easy enough for him to do. And then of course, all our air shifter bits are all in here. There's our solenoids here and down there. I still got to wire those up yet. And the speed sensor, all those wires are down here. I got to get those run up to the front. So it'll be a busy day, no doubt. And when you're wiring this stuff up too, I got a cool little techie tidbit here. We'll show you, but like the sensor here for the air compressor, you know, they've got the 1/4 inch spade lugs on them, and so does the sensor for the temperature sensor for the cooling fan. And one of the things that I do. I buy your regular looking, you know, spade connectors that come kind of like this, and they have that little rubber plastic piece on there because they expect you just to use this kind of Neanderthal looking crimp tool. But I'm going to show you something here how I do it, and it makes it, number one, makes better connection, and two, makes for a much nicer looking, more professional job. So stand by. Okay, so the first thing I'll do is I'm going to take this little plastic sheath off of here. Now you can fight with it if you want, but you can use either like a cigarette lighter or a in my case I'm using a heat gun and my giant roach clip, and just kind of warm that thing up a bit, soften it up, and it'll come right off. Otherwise you'll tear your connector up trying to get the damn thing off of there. Now I'll show you something really neat. See how nice that comes off? And it's not so hot, so you won't really burn yourself or anything. And I don't know if this thing can focus or not this close, but I'm going to try, and maybe I'll take some pictures to help. But when you take this off, there's a little split right here, okay? And if you've ever looked at a professionally done spade connector, you'll notice that that it's kind of done like this on the wire where it's crimped. You probably wonder, well, how in the hell do they do that? Well, this is how. And this is a special crimp tool that's designed just for that purpose. And you'll notice, if you look, there's the different colors marked on here. There's the yellow for your big fatties, and your blues for the one I'm using, and then the reds for the little tiny ones for like your 18 to 22 gauge wire. Anything 14 to 16 is blue, and anything thicker than that, I think up to 10 is yellow. And then what you do, let me find a piece of wire here, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Found me a piece of wire. Now I'm going to strip a little bit off the end here. Now you can use your fancy dancy strippers and all that, wire strippers, but I just use my lineman scissors here and just gently work my way around there, bend it over, get your good old manly thumbnail in there, and pow, you're perfect. Then what we do, we'll take our wire, insert it in here, and the split side, this is going to be tough, me sitting here trying to hold this for the camera, but the split side will go down in this tool like this. It's a bit of a challenge. It's hard to hold this and sit there and do this for the camera at the same time, but because you got to get it positioned just right. And then you squeeze it. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that makes a perfect little crimp there, and it's super strong. And then what we'll do is we'll take us a little piece of heat shrink, put us some heat shrink on here, once we get our heat shrink up there nice and good looking like that. Then we'll take our heat gun and watch it go shrinky-dink. look at that. That's just as pretty as pie, isn't it? It just looks, it looks so much more professional, especially if it's exposed where you can see it. So there's your MacGyver techie tip for the day.